Welcome to Unhinged Magi.
Oh man, your soul can hurt sometimes, but it never hurts when you have buckets of money.
Money makes all things go away.
Exactly.
All
If you have tons of freaking money, you're always happy, the day is shining, and when you get up, you know you still got money. Money is your best friend of all times.
That's what those evil central bankers say.
Exactly.
Evil.
Dang those evil central bankers. Those backstabbers. Those
Absolutely.
sacrificers of nothingness.
Terrible people.
Did they
evil
ever
people.
do anything in their life except exist?
They just make money off of you just because they're in power and they have ability, they have money, and so therefore they just take some of your profit all the time.
All the time. They
In fact,
suck it up.
You know, not only does that make us mad, you know who else that made mad?
Who else?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah.
It made Satoshi Nakamoto mad.
You know what he did to make sure that he would get his, well, kind of revenge?
He made Bitcoin.
That's right.
Yep.
And you guys like Bitcoin, or maybe you've heard of Bitcoin.
He made a cashless, electronic, decentralized currency system.
Take that, evil investors.
And he wrote a white paper about it.
Yep, he did.
So for anyone just joining us, this is video 3 of our Bitcoin series, where we're going through many aspects about what Bitcoin is. If you haven't seen the other 2, you know, you can click the series, you can click the link above.
Yep.
We're not trying to make you negative on Bitcoin.
Nope, just giving you information,
Yep.
making sure your brain cells are in line and in tune with reality.
We want you to understand what it is you're buying from a technical aspect, and there's also moral and there's political aspects. Today's video is really more of the moral aspect.
That's right. So remember, evil investors are bad.
Yep.
What about those early people who got in there? Now, they were moral, weren't they?
Those early Bitcoin investors you're talking about.
Bitcoin guys.
All of us nerds that ran in there and got Bitcoin for very cheap amounts of money, which actually I'm one of. I mean, I went in there and I had Bitcoin for very cheap amounts of money.
Congratulations, moral guy.
Well, I'm kind of an idiot because I sold it too early.
Yes, you are.
But I was one of the early investors,
Yes,
for sure.
That's right, for sure.
Yeah,
And you did make profit.
I did.
Can't just say that.
I did.
But did you add anything to Bitcoin when making a profit?
No, I just bought it.
Did you add anything to the global exchange?
No, I just bought it, and then sometime later I sold it.
Wait a minute. Isn't that what evil investing is? Or using it?
Oh, I see. So the connection that we are making is that there is a connection between these evil central bankers and these early Bitcoin investors that people don't actually like to talk about or think about or consider themselves a part of in any way.
Correct. Because if you make money from adding nothing to the environment or to the global exchange or anything like that, it's similar to, well, the evil investor bankers.
So let's just get really clear on this, you guys. Let's break this down to its basics. The idea behind free market economics is you got buyers and sellers. They're supposed to freely be coming into a market, and they're providing something on each side of a transaction. The idea here is that, like, if there was like something used as money, the person who has money is either going to be getting some kind of good or a service on the other side. So each side is providing something, right? Now, there's terms even inside of, we're not going to make this a religious video. There's even terms inside of religions, things called like usury and such, where making money off of the fact that you have money unto itself, and for some people is even considered like a bad thing. Now, the problem with central bankers is like they don't actually like add anything. They don't invent anything.
Nope.
They don't grow any food.
Nope.
They don't produce anything.
Nope.
They don't really add any value to your life. But since they're there and they have the blessing of government and they have that authority, they have the ability to come in and make profit off of your hard work. When I just try to give money over to someone else for a good or service,
I'll just take a piece of that.
They're in the middle of that transaction, taking a little cut at it all the time. And not only do they have the ability to take a cut at it, they also have some control over what you do.
Hey, stop that. Don't do that. You got to spend more money.
Exactly like that. They have some control. So this has irritated people for an awful long time, and it was one of the reasons that somebody might make a decentralized, electronic, cashless, point-to-point, peer-to-peer kind of system.
Yep.
That's why it exists.
Totally makes sense to me.
So a system is made, and now there's all these people involved in it. These early investors. They run in and they scoop up all this Bitcoin.
Now, they were pretty much not really, they were speculative, right? So they started mining, they started speculating what could actually potentially happen in the future. Some of them were just using it to transact to get Magic the Gathering cards.
Yeah, look at Mt. Gox. There's a whole story along that. But so yeah, these early investors, they might not even necessarily had any kind of nefarious purpose whatsoever. In fact, I do know for a fact that there's people that were involved in Bitcoin that had nothing to do with profit. They just wanted to see central banking go away.
Correct.
And so they were buying into cryptography and cryptocurrency, and they were telling other people about Bitcoin and what it could be. I mean, the early pitches that some of my friends back at Intel were telling me about was along these lines. They're like, hey, you talk about the Fed and all these terrible things. Like, hey, look at this thing called Bitcoin, and look at the problems it's solving. So I know philanthropy is really what was motivating a lot of people at the beginning. But then Bitcoin just turned this corner. And at some point, it became more about money than it did really about philanthropy. Correct. Solving the world's problems.
Well, when something becomes a little more rare and that it only has a certain amount of Bitcoin out there,
yep,
price and demand forces things to accelerate upward.
Yep.
And that's just the way things are.
Yeah, so that happened to Bitcoin, and you get to this point eventually where people realize, like, wait a minute, if this is just going to go up in value, all I need to do is just buy a bunch of it and just hold on to it, and I'll just become fantastically wealthy as the world is shifting over to Bitcoin. But they have this idea in their head that Bitcoin is going to be one of the things that'll solve the problem with evil central banking, corrupt governments, things like that. So like on one side of their brain, they're like, I'm part of the solution. On the other part of their brain, they're like, I'm going to hold on to Bitcoin and get rich while being part of the solution. But those two things actually don't really work very well together.
They don't coincide. Because it's not a one-to-one ratio. It's more like one, and I get rich and sell out. And I'm still a part of the central banking system.
Yep.
I just exit it.
So go back to the central bankers and remember, like, what actually made the central bankers deemed evil is that they didn't invent anything. They didn't grow anything. They didn't add any kind of good or service to society whatsoever. They just had power and authority. And since they were in a certain position, they had the ability to make profit off of you needing to actually use their form of transaction, which is US dollars or some kind of currency. They make profit off of you based on their power and position. Well, how is that actually necessarily that different from an early investor sitting on a ton of Bitcoin that's going up like crazy, and they're not working, they're not inventing, they're not growing, building, manufacturing, adding anything. They're just sitting on Bitcoin, and they're getting rich, and now they're giving this Bitcoin out to the world so people can actually use it, but they're making this fantastic profit at it for doing no work or adding no value. Is that really that different than evil central bankers?
Not really.
Not completely. And before you guys get too bent out of shape, let's ask this question differently. Are there other times in history where an entire society or a group of people goes from one currency over to another currency, and they do it without anyone in the middle there making a profit or taking a loss? Has that ever happened?
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. In fact, you guys have probably heard of the euro. You guys know that the euro is the collaborative effort of many countries around Europe coming together to make a centralized currency instead of having the franc and the mark.
Such a good idea to get rid of all that because of all the exchange rates. It's so random. It was terrible.
Sure, it definitely came with some benefits, but the point was there were times in each of these nations, like France, Germany, all these places, where they actually had to make a shift over from the current currencies they had over to the euro. So what they did is they basically set it up, and there's lots of ways to solve this problem, but the point is you have a certain day or a time or a place where people come and they turn in their old currency and they get a new currency. So they have a one-to-one swap of some kind.
Yep.
And the idea is that you're not making money off of people for it. You're not making them lose money. You're just shifting them over to a different form of exchanging value for value.
Correct.
And so that could happen with a cryptocurrency.
Correct. So let's say they created a new crypto called US dollar. And then they said, okay, on this particular day, all your dollars are going to become this currency. It's every single dollar in the current market is going to be mapped.
Okay, so we're not saying Federal Reserve government. We're just saying like a legit, actual, like a crypto.
Yeah.
That's like it has all the advantages and goodness of crypto, but it's just going to be birthed into the world on a 1-to-1 ratio, and everyone just switches their US dollars to that crypto.
Yep. And then on a particular day, all US dollars become worthless, but all crypto dollars become the new dollar.
Yeah, so that could actually happen. And if something like that happens, now you have no one sitting in the middle taking a profit or a loss for this actual exchange to happen. And the world now gets to use those new currency units, whatever they actually are, and have all the benefits of those currency units. So this could happen. This is the kind of thing that cryptocurrencies, they could facilitate this kind of thing. But right now, that's not where it's going.
Correct.
Right now, it's more in the realm of everybody buying it in order to get rich.
That's right. To make money. Shiba Inu is going to go to the moon. Ethereum is going to go to the moon. Everyone's speculating which one can go to the moon first.
And this is why there's an important thing to sometimes just have clarity in your mind on what is my purpose, what is my goal, what is it I'm trying to do. And what I'm going to clearly tell you guys is there is a contradiction of end terms here. And I'm going to make this as clear as I can. If you want a currency, the best currencies are stable. They don't change in purchasing power from day to day, week to week, month to month. They're flat, right? That is the absolute best currencies, is the ones that maintain their purchasing power. But that's a terrible investment.
Very terrible.
Something that maintains...
That's dead money.
Yeah, that's dead money. You don't take investment money and put it into something that literally goes nowhere, because then you're not gaining anything. You want to put it into something that gains value.
Correct.
So the better something actually is at being a straight up currency, the worse it is at being an investment. These things are diametrically opposed, total opposite ends of the spectrum. And this is critical to this discussion, because if you are buying Bitcoin to save the world from evil central bankers, then your desire would be for Bitcoin to be massively stable, unchanging in price.
Right. So let's say you're going to go buy a loaf of bread and it costs 1 Bitcoin a day, but it costs only 2/10 tomorrow. And then it costs 10 Bitcoins the next day, but then it costs only 1/2 of a Bitcoin the next day after that. Then it's not a currency.
It's a terrible currency, actually.
Because no one can keep up with that.
Yep. Yeah, inflation and deflation are both forms of failing currency. A good currency is stable and easy to transact. Absolutely. If you have inflation, then the people who are holding the stuff and not the currency are the winners. If you have deflation, the people holding the currency, not the stuff, are the winners. If you have absolute stability in prices, there is no winner and loser. It's just money.
And everything is perfect.
Yeah, and saving is there. Like there is no inflation rate. Like you could just take money and hide it under a mattress if you need to. Like many things that are now perverted in today's financial markets suddenly all change and become stable if you have a stable currency. But if Bitcoin was suddenly to become perfectly stable and unchanging in price, then everyone who's holding it right now for investment would probably bail. Because they would want to put their investment money into something that actually gains value.
In which case it would go...
Yeah, and this actually leads to... This is foreshadowing one of the videos we'll make later on one of the ways that Bitcoin overall can collapse someday.
Correct.
But anyways, I'm not going there yet. I'm just trying to make clear right now that you're not too different than a central banker from a moral standpoint if you're buying Bitcoin in order to make profit.
Correct.
The more you want to make profit...
by the way, we don't think that's evil to try to make profit.
Yeah, I'm not condemning people.
Okay?
Yeah.
Not saying that at all.
Heck, I even have Bitcoin that I bought to make profit. So
Exactly.
I'm not condemning it. I'm making it clear on what it is and what it's not.
Correct.
If you're buying Bitcoin to make profit, you're not trying to solve the world of central bankers. If you're buying Bitcoin to have stability of currency and you hope it doesn't go anywhere, then you are trying to solve the world from central bankers and you're not trying to make profit from it. These things they don't exist in the same bucket. They are diametrically opposed on complete opposite ends of the spectrum. You get one and you lose the other. That is how they work.
Yep.
So there you go, you guys. So one of the moral standpoints of Bitcoin that people just don't talk about. They don't understand.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone talk about it. I'm not sure somebody has, of course.
Yep.
All right, everybody.
That was
Hope you
video
enjoyed
3.
it.
Come on, stick with our series here. Hopefully it's been good.
Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Hopefully you guys are learning something.
Exactly.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.